I've redefined what I think legacy is. Instead of it being something when we die that we leave for people, I really think it's how we live, give, and love now. Because we're building that legacy, right? We're going to leave a memory for people one way or another. So let's be intentional about it and think about it as we live it so that we can hopefully have the impact at the end of our lives that we wanted to have. This is going to sound a little strange. It's not so much about the business you're in. It's more about the heart behind the business.
Welcome to Reinventing Perspectives. Today we have an amazing guest, Kasten. Kathy, please let us know who you are and what's your mission.
My mission is pretty simple, probably like all of your listeners. It's to glorify God and benefit the people that I can touch with the gifts that I've been given. Kathy, as a person, God has given me the gift of being able to work well with leadership and relationship building and also helping people to think about the legacy they live. So I do a lot of work with professionals, entrepreneurs, executives, either with their teams and businesses or with solopreneurs that are working to get started to really help them get clear on why they're where they are, what gifts they have, how they can use those to God's glory. I just love it. It's really fun to be able to support people the way God made them. I'm a big believer that each of us are a masterpiece created for the time and place we're in, that we're the best person to fill it when we are at our best. God made us that way. So how do we help people to shine those gifts and be in the place that He wants them to be? So that's Kathy in a nutshell. I'm also a grandma. I'm married to my high school sweetheart. We've been married 39 years, have a number of wonderful, beautiful grandchildren. I love cats, like chocolate. So I'm a normal human, I guess, like the rest of the world, but I really love what I do.
Well, Kathy, I saw that you are called the Corporate Alpaca Ice Cream Lady. So I said there's a lot of story in there that we're going to get to later on in the podcast. But I know that your area is really leadership. You know, a lot of our early entrepreneurs that are listening, and maybe some of them have gotten into business and they've never been a leader in any kind of sphere. And now they must be the leader of this thing and begin to hire people. What would you say to that person who's like, I've never done this. I don't know how to do this, but now I must.
Well, I can't wait to share some of my story. Maybe that will help. As CEO of Crest Leadership, what I've learned is we just have to trust God, regardless of what degrees you have, title you have. We're God certified. And to me, that trumps everything. So God has given us these gifts. He doesn't want us to be someone else. He made us to be who we are. So really leaning into, okay, God, how can I serve you? Why did you put me here? What can I do? That's a first place to start. As a leader, though, I think first we have to constantly be praying and in the Word, right? That's central. But then it's about influencing other people in a way that's going to make their lives better. So in a really general sense, what I would say is as you're looking at a new business, I love the image of Christ at the well when He's meeting the woman who came for water, that we need to meet people where they are and walk with them in the journey, because they have a life journey too. And God's giving us a chance to cross paths with them. So how do we lead? By example. How do we lead? By living out what we believe? Thinking about, do we treat others in a way that would be God-pleasing? There's so many parts to that, and there's a lot of different directions that leadership goes. But I guess in general, I think leading begins by following, and that's by following the Lord. And recognizing too that as a leader, we don't have all the answers. So do you surround yourself with people who can support you? You know, good counsel is an important thing. So there are a lot of pieces like that in the very beginning.
I think also there's sort of this idea that certain people are leaders and then other people just don't feel like they're leaders. Mm-hmm. And when people sort of don't feel like they're a leader and they're in a position to lead, now that conflict between the idea of what leadership is and the person themselves.
I love that you brought that up. So one of the areas that I specialize in is understanding human behavior. I'm advanced certified in DISC, which is an assessment tool. Any person can be a leader and can be a good leader. We have that image, like you said, of the person out front, maybe that's like charging, right? And certainly there are those leaders, and there are times when we need those kind of leaders. But there are leaders that I work with all of the time, executives that are beside leaders. You know, we walk beside. There are leaders who are standing in the back and cheering the team on from the back. Whatever gift we have, we can lead with. And it's just learning how to lead with the skill sets we have and what are the strengths and challenges of those gifts that we have. And then who do we bring alongside to complement us in the areas that we're not as strong? I do that myself. Anyone can lead. As a parent, you're a leader. As an oldest sibling, you're a leader. Maybe you're the first one to get in line at the grocery store. You're a leader, right? I mean, there are moments where we're leading in some capacity all the time. So I think the bigger question is, what kind of a leader do we want to be? Are we going to be a positive change maker or leave a negative situation when we walk away? So once we say, okay, God, how did you make me? How do I shine? And how do I lead the people that you've put in my path? Then we start to ask the right questions and start to look for the answers that build us as leaders.
Is there anything that you sort of keep in the front of your mind or the back of your mind as a leader, or things you say to yourself or continuously come back to kind of get your North Star as a leader?
I'm always thinking about, where can I serve? Lord, help me to be open and aware today of what I can share. I have a verse that I love in my business. It's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I guess that's 2 verses, but it's trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your paths. I've thought about that so many times, and as we're going to get into with my story, my journey did not go the way I expected. So keeping myself grounded, my company, Crest Leadership, is named after Christ, Lion of Judah. I wanted to have that front and center all the time, not to forget whose business this is and who I serve. I think that's got to be the central piece of every day. And the other part of it maybe that I tie into too as a legacy person is, I've redefined what I think legacy is. Instead of it being something when we die that we leave for people, I really think it's how we live, give, and love now. Because we're building that legacy, right? We're going to leave a memory for people one way or another. So let's be intentional about it and think about it as we live it so that we can hopefully have the impact at the end of our lives that we wanted to have. So I also think about that each day as I go through my business. This is going to sound a little strange. It's not so much about the business you're in. It's more about the heart behind the business. And once you have the heart behind the business, most truths of leadership transfer across all kinds of leadership worlds, different businesses, different industries. 80% of what I did in one of my businesses might be the same in the next. What changes is just the tiny details, the products, the regulations for that area. But things like customer service, treating people well, understanding the generalities of leadership, those are things that are in all of it. So once you learn that, then you can transfer into different areas and God can use you in a lot of different places.
Operating in the market. And a lot of times as Christian entrepreneurs, we tend to pull back, not really want to put the Christian part out there as much, sort of, because things like political correctness and this and that sometimes weigh on people. How did you navigate that, Kathy? Because I feel like you've navigated it very well.
Thank you. That's been a lot of prayer. Certainly there's a part of me, probably like every Christian listening, right, that just wants to run and scream from the housetops what I believe. I also know, though, that different people require different situations. So again, I'm going to go back to Christ meeting the woman at the well. That's one of my favorite illustrations for my business, is to think about, where do I meet them? What can I do to make their life better, especially if they're not a Christian? Because if I just come up to Priscilla and we've never met and I say, Jesus is the Lord and he's amazing, I want you to experience all of the joy I've found, you might think I'm a little off and crazy if you don't understand Christianity. So for me, a lot of that has been, we need to have a relationship built first when that's possible. So for example, when I do coaching or when I'm working with teams, we may start by working on priority setting or goal setting or things like that. As they start to have success and they get to know me, they get curious and then they want to ask me questions. And that's the opportunity that I have then. And I would say in the vast majority of my client groups, I have had the chance to witness my faith. And that is really wonderful for me. And sometimes at deep levels. So it's opening the door and serving them, just like Jesus did the loaves and fishes. When you've met someone and met a need that makes their life better, and you take the time to actually see them, not just as a number or a paycheck, but as a real human, then they're a lot more open and excited to hear, what makes you different? Why are you talking to me like this? Why are we having this success? And that opens the wonderful door to have a deper conversation. So that's really where I start.
I love that. Now, you've got to tell us, corporate alopecia ice cream lady. It all sounds wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure, it's been a crazy journey. I thought that I would tell the Lord how I was going to live my life. So I explained to him that I was going to be in corporate my whole life and that's how things would go, right? And the Lord just laughed and said, that's not how it's going to be. So I started out in corporate in a Fortune 500 company. Within 4 years of getting out of college, I was in a management position that allowed me to do like employee morale work and customer rewards and showcases and newsletters and things like that. It was training. It was a really wonderful career, but I was being fast tracked and recognized that both my husband and I were being successful young in our careers. We were losing each other. We just didn't have time. So we stepped back and said, this isn't the life we want. It's not about the money. I want to have a real husband and a real relationship. I don't want us to be so tired we have no time left for each other. So I stepped out of corporate. That was one of the first pieces of the journey. There have been so many parts of this. So that initially, after praying and talking to my husband, we made that decision. Then I homeschooled our daughter, which I had never thought I would do. I didn't even know what homeschooling was originally. Over time, while she was young, I was doing other businesses to give us supplemental income because obviously we had lost quite a bit of income when I stepped out of my career. That led me eventually to alpacas because I was homeschooling our daughter. Alpacas are similar to llamas, but they have a finer fiber. We had a small hobby farm. I was looking for something for our daughter that would allow her to experience some of the country life. I was a city kid growing up. I'd never raised animals, but I remember taking her to a farm as a homeschool trip to talk about what are alpacas and discovered them and loved them and called my husband and said, I think I know what I'd like to do with our farm. So that was a crazy adventure. I got to help birth alpacas and show alpacas and sell alpaca product. All things I never thought I would do. It was really fun. But then we had a life change where my mother-in-law, she was a widow. She was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. We made the decision, the hard decision, to sell the farm to move closer to her because my husband was the primary person helping to oversee all of her needs. So we moved. Kathy's an entrepreneur by heart and needed to do something. So we bought an ice cream parlor, which I had no background in. When you have the basics and understanding of how leadership works and what's needed in a business, then learning the nuances. So I had to learn about ice cream. I had to get certified and learn about food safety and all those things. That was really fun. And I got a lot of wonderful time in a tourism town to spend with people one-on-one, with other business owners, with community leaders. I got very involved from a leadership side as well in that area. Loved it. I thought, okay, Lord, maybe this is where you took us. We're going to just stop here and we're going to serve ice cream until we're 90 years old. He said no. I got very sick. For a couple of years, we didn't know if I would survive. That was probably about 6-7 years ago now. And I went through a lot of tests with a hospital and trying to figure out what was going on with me. I was having some pretty major issues. Again, that's where some of the leadership really benefited me. Having trained my team really well at the ice cream parlor, they were able to run that business for a couple of years while I was not able to be as present, which was really a wonderful gift that we had. But after going through the health issues, and the Lord provided me with an answer and gave me my health back, so I'm very thankful. Then I really reassessed, is this the right use of my gifts? Also, that was pretty physically demanding. We were open long hours. So I really reassessed, where can I best serve? And realized that God's gift to me, one of them had been to be able to help people build deep relationships and to be able to learn how to lead, right? That made me decide to start Lion Crest Leadership after a lot of prayer. We sold the ice cream parlor. We opened the leadership business. Then I thought, okay, this is it. This is where the Lord took me. Loved it, was having a wonderful time. At January of 2020, I was doing a keynote for about 400 women in business, and I was the main speaker, and I was talking about living your legacy. And that day, my mother and my daughter were there. It ended in a standing ovation. It was just a wonderful day. Lots of hugs, lots of opportunities to share. I was feeling really excited about the next steps. The next day, my mother dies completely unexpectedly with no forewarning at all. She had no health issues, no medicine, completely upended my business. So I had to step back. I'm grieving. I'm trying to help my father, who's been married for 57 years, to deal with this loss, and really pushed everything in the business back that I had just started in the last 36 hours, even expanding a whole bunch because of the keynote. Pushed everything back. Early March, I come to the point where I'm going to start bringing little pieces back in, just to try to keep the business functioning while I'm helping my family. COVID hits. Almost everything in my business was in person, so everything collapsed. The keynotes are gone. The trainings are gone. The coaching that I was doing in in person is gone. All of it's gone. Then in May of that year, my mother-in-law dies during, in our area, what was really heavy lockdown. So within a 4-month period, we lose both of our mothers and my business collapses. And I'm really trying to think about, Lord, what are you trying to teach me? This is twice in a 6-year period where I've had pretty deep lows, both with my health and now with all of these other things outside of my control. It was actually some of the greatest gifts I've ever had, Priscilla. When you're in the moment of it, I don't think you appreciate it because you're just trying to survive it. But now looking back, I see so many gifts. It was a really hard journey, and there are a lot of pieces of it that I would not like to go through again. But what I learned has changed me deeply, and it's allowed me to really connect with people on a much deeper level. And here's the fast forward beautiful part. So I said to the Lord, should I just close the business? I'm exhausted. I'm really sad. I'd have to start over. I recognize at this point with COVID that I need a new model for my business because it's taking longer to come out of it than we thought. After a lot of prayer, I decided to rebuild the business. Think again about, okay, how I can't serve the way I did, but how can I serve now? And I started building again. And the Lord has just exploded my business, which isn't why I went back into it. I truly want to serve people, but it's apparent to me that this is the direction He wanted me to go. And I'm so thankful for the resets, for the chance to really rethink what's important in my life. What are my gifts? How can I use them? Every day now when I get up, I am excited just to be alive. Every day now when I get up, I am thankful for another day to serve. That came through all those hard valleys that were so difficult, but now I'm thankful for all of it.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Kathy. A lot of people will really identify with that because a lot of times when people talk about being in business and running your own business, you almost feel like it's only you that certain things are happening to, and everybody else has this skyrocketing business and everything looks perfect.
No, it's hard work. Even when I decided to bring it back and even when I prayed, it wasn't like God just amazingly brought me, boom, here's all your business. For one thing, I wouldn't have been ready. I had to slowly build to that. As we let go of control, which was one of the hardest lessons for Kathy to learn, and let the Lord, well, I shouldn't say let, He leads our lives for us. I don't feel so much pressure now. I want to give my best, but I do it out of joy, and I do it out of an understanding that I'm here for a purpose. I don't do it because I'm telling God how I'm going to live my life and this is what's going to happen. It's changed over time a lot, and again, I think some of these valleys helped me to get there. It changes you. You feel so much freer, and I think part of the reason my business has been even more successful now is because I am free and people sense that. I don't feel that heavy load. Do I want to be successful? Of course, and I still have profitability, and all of that. That's a part of my planning, but it's His and I'm His. So, okay, Lord, let's go. I used to give the analogy, Priscilla, of trusting the Lord by just holding onto the cliff by one fingernail. Then I realized that Kathy was still trying to control the scenario. I think when the day came that I realized I had to take that last fingernail off and let go and free fall right into His hands, that was the day when my life and my businesses really pivoted the most because I quit trying to have any control. That fingernail was still Kathy holding on. And again, you still want to be good stewards with what you're given. So I spend a lot of time on planning and all of those pieces. It's not like I just discount all of that, but I recognize it's God's business. He can open and close it as He chooses. He can bring me clients or not as He chooses. There may be a season when I should have more or shouldn't have more, and I may not know what's coming. He does. So that takes the pressure off and really helps me.
Since you've been in both product business and now service businesses, for a new entrepreneur, maybe you're sort of weighing, should I go product side? Should I go into a service? Hey, small business family, quick pause here. If you've been listening and thinking, I need help getting clear on my message and how to actually market this amazing thing I've created, I've made something just for you. It's called the Clarity Intensive, and it's 2 focused sessions, one-on-one, where we untangle your ideas, map out your next best move, and build a foundation for real business momentum. If you're done thinking what's the right thing to do, and you're ready for a customized strategy that fits you, this is for you. You'll find the link in the show notes, or you can visit the website www.reinventingperspectives.com/shop, and you'll see our Clarity Intensive 1-to-1 marketing coaching. Let's get back to the show.
There's a couple of things I would say. Again, this is going to vary depending on the kind of product you sell, because it makes a difference. Is this product in your home, or is this product in a building, where you have to pay taxes and buy a property? So there is some differing with that. I've had both, actually. I've had product in my home, and I've had a product business that was in a building that I bought. And this is a really broad statement, but in general, products are, I think, sometimes easier to sell because you have something tangible to show people. Here's your ice cream cone. Here's your pair of alpaca socks. And then I could talk about the values of those items that they can physically see in front of them. If they're going to give me money, this is what they're going to get in return. So service side, that's harder. I can't say to Priscilla, here, I'm going to hand you a leadership growth item. Like I am, but we're going to do it through the mind, right? And through growth, not through me handing you something. I suppose I could give you a certificate, but it's just not quite the same. So that's one of the perception differences, is that I think you have to get much clearer at messaging and really help people to see the value when you offer service. Where when you have a product, sometimes you can show that and you don't have to be as eloquent because they can touch the socks, they can lick the ice cream, right? So there's a little bit more work, I think, that's done on the service side. Having said that, I love service-based. I don't dislike product, and I even have some small amounts of product in the service business I have now. But I will tell you, the service-based is really fun. It's much more flexible. I don't have nearly the issue, like now I do contracted help rather than employees at this point in my business. So I don't have employee schedules. I don't have employee benefits. I don't have employee taxes, right? I don't have to keep the property painted. When I had the alpacas, I don't have to clean the barn anymore, right? So there are a lot of extra tangible things that go with those product-based items that sometimes can be heavy. Again, if they're in your home, it's less, but still you have to store it, you have to box it, you have to ship it, all of those things. Service-based frees you from a lot of that. I find there's a lot more flexibility in general in the service-based, but again, it's a little more challenging of a market because it's a more nebulous product, so people have a harder time grasping what it is you do. I love them both for different reasons, but at this point in my life, I'm really enjoying the service-based.
And I think a person can really see what kind of a person are they, and that will really guide which one you sort of lean more to.
Well, something else about that, Priscilla, too, that I just want to say to people that are thinking about that. When I do executive coaching, a lot of times the people I work with think you have to go all in right away. And Kathy used to be wired like that too, in fairness, the 100%. So if I'm going to do the business, I'm going to buy the building, I'm going to buy a lot of product, and they'll sink a lot of money and a lot of energy in right away. I would really suggest that people take small steps. It's probably one of the best single lessons I've learned in my whole business leadership life. I'm a fast-paced, do everything yesterday person. And yet, as I've gotten older, I'm learning that taking tiny, small, intentional steps every day has gotten me farther faster than trying to take those great big jumps. So don't put all the money you have into one big thing. Take a tiny step with it and see if it's a product that's sellable before you invest your life savings. Maybe you rent a space before you buy it, or maybe you contract an employee before you hire one, just so that you can take little steps. It allows you to start to get comfortable in little pieces instead of trying to learn everything all at once and being really stressed out because you've spent all this time and money. People will feel that. They'll feel that stress. Your team will feel it. Your customers will feel it. And then you're not going to be able to be as successful in the business. So as much as possible, taking those tiny steps as we go really lessens that burden for the new entrepreneur.
That's gold right there.
Good. I'm glad. It's hard-earned gold. I've panned for that. I didn't always know that.
As you've formed teams and even now as you work with your contract workers, what do you think are some of the things that make for a great team?
So I've had employees and I've had contracted help. For me, the first thing that I would say to anybody that's listening to this is if you're going to lead, you need to love the people that are on your team. And I mean really love them, like treat them like family. So as an example, when I had the ice cream parlor, we did all kinds of extra training with our team. I taught them how to do all of the things that were involved with the ice cream parlor, everything except the accounting for my books. Some of them I would take to events that I would be invited to that they would never have had access to, but I would get permission to take them because I wanted to expose them to new levels of leadership. We would close the ice cream parlor in the middle of busy tourist season on a full day, and we would take the team out and do something fun. So we took them for fencing lessons, like sword fighting. We took them sailboating, just all kinds of things where we would really pour into them. So the reason I'm telling this story is when I was getting ready to sell the ice cream parlor, before that happened, we had done one of our last team outings. We actually ended up being tourists in the town we lived in. All of my staff said, we've worked here for years, but we've never been tourists. So we booked tourists things and we went out for the whole day and made them tourists. And I had 2 different businesses in the community say, what do you do to this team? Because we've been trying to hire them away from you for 2 years and they will not leave you. First, I was really appreciative they shared that. But what the answer to that is, I love them. We would support them, not only at work, but if there were things that they had needs of that we knew were really stressful for them, or they had some kind of a special event, if my husband and I could possibly go, we would attend, right? So pouring into people now with my contracted people that I work with, giving them opportunities to experience things that they by themselves would never have a chance to experience, or introducing them to people they might never meet. That's the core. If you don't have that, you're never going to have the kind of a team you could have. You've got to be willing to really love those people. Once you have that, it's hiring the people too. So I was very clear on expectations. I was looking for people with a heart to serve. This is just my opinion. I don't care if you are the greatest expert in the world on a topic. Let's say you're the best accountant in the world. If you don't have a heart for people, I don't want to hire you. And I'm not interested in that. I need that heart first. You still want to have those skill sets, but let's say I was interviewing 2 people and one of them is pretty gifted and the other one's really gifted, but the pretty gifted one can learn and they love people. That's the one I'm hiring, because I want this mindset, especially a shared purpose. So a lot of my inner circle, of course, is Christian, because I want that group to have a shared understanding of why we do what we do. Doesn't mean I can't serve other people. I'm happy to do that, but I just want to keep that in the center. So I think as a team, caring about your people, supporting them like their family, which in our Christian world, they are, right? They're all brothers and sisters. And then working hard to build team bonding among the group and give them opportunities for growth, stand beside them, work with them. That's central to me. The skill sets we can keep adding and bringing in, but if you don't have the connection, I think the rest of it doesn't work well.
Such wise words.
Well, it helps practically, Priscilla, because one of the things, as an example, I was telling you with the ice cream parlor, the area we lived in as a tourism town was very tight on employee help. Everybody else in town every year would be scrambling, trying to get help. I never had to post for help. People would come to us and we got the best of the best in the area, and then they brought their friends. So think how much time that saved me, how much energy that saved me. And usually if one of the people working for me who already knew what I expected brought me a friend, 99% chance I was probably going to hire the friend. Even from a practical side, it had beautiful benefits.
People should really take note of that, looking for that heart to serve. The importance of legacy in leadership. I know this is very important to you.
Yeah, again, I think it's because of the valleys the Lord has taken me through. Really being intentional about every day and how we live it. So my redefinition of legacy is how we live, give, and love every day, one step at a time, one day at a time. We're making intentional choices every day when we get up. Don't let life happen to us, but live it fully. People will talk about being so busy. I'm so busy all the time, especially in the world we live in now. Everybody's busy. I think that's more about priorities than it is about busyness. Maybe we have too much on our plate. John Maxwell, who's a leadership expert, talks about letting go of the good to get to the great. Sometimes I think we even have to let go of great to get to greater or greatest. Simplify, get really clear on what it is that you want this to look like, and then intentionally build it. So example, as a side thing, which of course is not directly tied to the business, but you could apply it, is our grandchildren. We talk about what do we want them to remember about us when we're no longer here? And then how do we live that? So we go to church with them. There's a lot of different things that we're doing intentionally. We set up time each month that we do a special activity with them. We watch them and have them stay overnight, and we think about what we're going to do while they're here. It's the same in a business. If today were your last day in business, what kind of an impact could you make with the gifts you have to make a difference in somebody's life? When you start to think like that, it changes the results of the business. And people will sense that too. You get clearer, you get more focused, you get more joy in the journey because you're recognizing what's really important. I don't want people to get to the end of their lives with regrets, especially Christian people. We're never going to do everything perfectly, but I'm so thankful to be at a point where, having nearly lost my life, and certainly having seen my mother lose hers quickly and other things, it's given me a chance to really redefine every day. From today forward, I can choose to live differently. I can choose to make a difference in the lives of people who might not know Jesus, who might not have joy in the journey, who might feel completely overwhelmed. They don't have the hope we have. So how do we share that? How do we give that to somebody else? That's really pivotal. So when I do a lot of work with teams and leaders, I am working on trying to help them think about that bigger picture too. This business is God's business. Whether you're a tent maker, right, or whatever else it might be in scripture, it's his business. Are we using it in a a way that's great for the people around us, so that at the end of the day, everybody comes out better, which also allows us to be happier because we're shining our gifts at a greater level. So we're more fulfilled too.
What fills Kathy Kasten up?
Well, first my faith, but then I think joy of living. And one of the gifts God's given me that I've so appreciated in the business that I'm doing now with supporting people as they're in their leadership journeys, I am getting daily texts and emails and phone calls and notes in the mail about life-changing things that are happening because of the work they're doing with me. And I know I just see God everywhere in that. And I'm just thankful to be a mouse in the corner that gets to be the person who shares him, to watch him work. That fills me up, to know that somebody's business is doing better, to know that their family has improved, because personal and business go together, right? So sometimes the skills that I'm teaching them in their business, they will cross over and apply in their family lives as well, like how to improve relationships and things like that. So that just feels amazing that God is allowing me to be a person to carry a basket with loaves and fishes around to the crowd and see the joy in their face and hear the joy in their hearts when somebody has cared enough to pour into them and make a difference. That fills me up.
Beautiful. Kathy, what is the number one book that you would recommend?
I may be a little different than most people. I can't really give you one. I have read a number of books, but honestly, the scripture is the best book I know. Whenever I get pulled away from the scripture, my business suffers. Whenever I get myself back and grounded again, the business does better. And I don't always mean financially, but even just my thinking and my clarity of direction and my purpose. All of those things, usually when I get out of sync, it's because I've forgotten to go back and get centered where I need to be. Honestly, God knows that if we serve people well and pour into them and we love the people around us, we're going to have benefits from that, even worldly benefits. So that may sound like a simple question that I should be able to answer. And I have a number of books that I've certainly read, but honestly, that's where I think the core has to be as a Christian entrepreneur or a Christian business owner. That seems simple, but it's hard to live sometimes on a day-to-day basis. And that's where I definitely would go. The Lord understands psychology. He understands business. And scripture is full of it. So that's probably what I would say. If there is a specific area that someone wants to know more about, then I might have some recommendations for pieces. But in general, I definitely think stay centered on the scripture. That's where you need to start.
Final question is always, what has faith meant to you on your journey?
I don't know how anyone survives without it. I don't know how you face the hardships of life, the challenges of life, the questions about self. I really don't know. I am so thankful. And one of the things that the Lord's taught me in this journey is to think about not who I am, but whose I am. And as I have celebrated whose I am, then I can be more filled to give to others. I'm speechless at the gift we've been given. I can't imagine what life would look like if I didn't know I would see my mother again. I can't imagine what it would look like to me to think that this is it. Do I think businesses can be successful? Of course. And in the scriptures, the Lord blessed some people with very successful businesses. So I'm not against people making money, but honestly, when we take our last breath, none of that's going to matter. So it's really about, in the journey, have we helped? Did we use the money well? Did we use the business well? Did we use our gifts well? How have we served? Even at the bottom of that, Priscilla, if my answer to all of that was no, the Lord still loves me. How do you wrap your head around a love like that loves me if I were in a coma the rest of my life, or if I did everything terribly? That's powerful love. It's something that it's really hard for us as humans to wrap our minds about. Where it's translated for me is, help me to see the world as you see it, not as I see it. Help me to love others as you loved us. Help me to see the world through your eyes, because as a sinful human being, it's hard for me to do that. When you celebrate the love you've been given, when you had no reason to deserve it, now there's this freedom within the heart and within the mind that allows you to love others at such a different level without the expectation of return.
Thank you for that, Kathy. Now, to our audience, if you want to find out more about Kathy, please go to lioncrestleadership.com.
That's a great place to go to learn a little bit about the services and things that I do to help. Otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can go to Kathy Kasten on LinkedIn. You'll find me there. Or they can email me too at Kathy@lioncrestleadership.com if they want to just send me a personal question. I'm happy to support them.
Thank you so much for that, Kathy, and thank you for a lovely conversation and so much wisdom.
Thank you very much for having me, Priscilla. It's a joy to be here.
If you got any value out of today's episode, please do me two massive favors. One, please share it with someone that you know would benefit from this information. And secondly, please leave us a review in your podcast listening app. This will help us grow the show and get bigger and bigger guests that will benefit you even more. Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you for your time. I absolutely value your time. Thank you for spending time with us listening to the Reinventing Perspectives podcast. Thank you and see you again next week.